let's get into the bad reviews, shall we? First, we're going to start off with Goodreads. We're going to start off with Goodreads, and then we're going to move over to Mal. So we're going to start with the people who read books and read manga, and then we're going to go to the weebs. Imagine Joe reviewing Chainsaw Man. Man, I hope we see Joe. Joe, if you're in the chat, give us a hey. All right, 1-star reviews, 1%. So not a lot of 1-star reviews, but there are 412. There are 1 to 30 reviews of 1 stars. So that's a lot. That's actually a lot more than what Berserk had, I think, for its first volume. So let's get into it, shall we? I did see this one before. The manga is like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but the needs are just tits and food. I think that's pretty fair. Yeah, for a lot of people, that kind of is all you need. Honestly, yeah. I don't really have much to say to this one. I guess it's just, you know, they're just put off by the fact that it, you know, the character's motivation is Denji is just like, I want to eat food and get girlfriend, which we'll get into because I imagine this won't be the only one about that. All right, here, Dylan is not happy. Holy shit, this is dreadful. I'm baffled as how it became so popular. Let's see, what have we got here? Dreadful writing, very lackluster background art. There's the art one. Dialogue between characters that make the rest of the writing look like a masterpiece. A several chapter arc dedicated to the main character trying to convince a female character to let him touch her boobs. That does happen, can confirm. Speaking of boobs, pretty much the only personality trait of the main character is that he's desperate to touch some boobs. There are a fair few panels which are just zoomed in views of a female character's chest. One of the female characters gets kidnapped and the main character says, hey, give me my boobs back, which is just dreadful. He does, I remember when he says that. I sure am glad I held off on buying this and waited for my copy from the library. Suffice to say, I will not be continuing on with this series. Hey, give me back my boobs, bro. Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, this is, again, just a taste thing. Dreadful writing. I think the writing coming from Denji may feel pretty shallow. That's because most people will assume Denji is a shallow character. The thing is, most people love reading Chainsaw Man at the start, I think. And it's mostly because of Denji getting out of a terrible situation. And then him wanting to, like, date someone and eat food seems extremely shallow. But you have to understand that's part of his character. Because he himself is thinking that's the best you could have in life. And we know that later in later chapters and volumes. I will give some spoilers if you haven't caught up to, so pretty much the end of part 1. It's essentially the idea that Denji believes that when he is getting all this new cool stuff, this is like the height of life. And we know through the Bomb Girl arc that she tells him that these are just basic necessities to living. And he doesn't know that, right? He feels like getting the chance to cop a feel because he's never done that and he never thought he ever would. Sleep with someone, get a girlfriend. These are things that make him feel like, huh. And if the guy kept reading, he would know that when he does cop a feel, nothing changed. And you know that when he does cop a feel from Makima, it's not the fact that he is copping a feel of boobies. It's the fact that he has a physical connection with someone, because it's not something he ever had, you know, having a physical connection with someone. And that's the difference, right? He wants all that because he was deprived of basic needs. Yeah, that's right. Now, I think some of these things are just taste things, right? Very lackluster background art, which the art is crude, but I think that's just its style in general, right? Background art, I mean, yeah, sure. Like if you look at some of the back ones, yeah, it's just blocks, right? But I think that's not the point. It's the character dialogue and the humor between the two. And I think that's the fun part. You know, that's the thing that to me makes the comedy all that better. And it doesn't have to be the best comedy. I think what's great is that it mixes comedic dialogue with real in-depth kind of philosophical dialogue, which is really funny. It is the only personality trait is he's desperate to touch some boobs. That is a trait that he has at a point, but it's mostly just, you know, to find connection. But the only way he can describe that is just to get girlfriend. It is an objectification, but to him, he doesn't understand what that is. And so maybe a lot of people identify with Denji because of the fact that he is like, you know, how do we say, a bit horny? That's essentially what I would, that's essentially how I would describe him. Moving on. Really let down by this. It's just Jujutsu Kaisen with a pervert as a main character. Plot is already bland. It seems to take a lot from Jujutsu, but made it really, really boring. Making the character a pervert doesn't add humor. It just makes him annoying. True. Okay, look, to a degree, that is a general way of looking at, you know, Denji's character. And honestly, Denji is every teenage boy. And you may think that's awful. To a degree, yeah, boys shouldn't only just want to touch boobies and that's it for the rest of life. GG, see you later. What they should be wanting to do is have a connection. But that's when we realize when Denji does get the copper feel, nothing happens. He feels like, oh, that was it? That was, no more? That's it? Is that what it was? I thought it was meant to be hype, and it wasn't hype because he knows it doesn't matter when it's just physical contact with someone. You can have physical contact with anyone, but it's connection is the real difference. Making the character pervert doesn't add humor. I think it does add humor because it's so ridiculous that he is risking his life for breasts, and that's funny. That is hilarious. I think it'd be funny on the other end if it was a gender problem, if a girl was risking her life just to touch some dude's abs or touch a willy. Oh, that'd be fucking funny. That'd be hilarious, and I think that'd be great. Touching booba wasn't that poggers? 0 out of 10? Pretty much, yeah. Understanding with some manga. Monogatari used dark comedy, pervy stuff, and it was great. I think it depends on how it's used, right? Because it's definitely like a cultural difference, like pervy humor, right? But I think it just shows in the character's actions whether or not it's the case, because we know Denji later on doesn't care so much about touching breasts, but actually having a unique relationship and a connection with someone, right? That's probably what most of these reviews will be around. I'm actually interested to see something a bit different than just that. But look, I get the criticism. I do, I really do. But I think volume 1 isn't enough to convince people otherwise, you know what I mean? As the saying goes, if you have nothing nice to say, interesting. Well, you're here, Janelle, I want to know what you have to say. Thank you very much. Oh, okay, sweet. Now, G, my thoughts as a series on the whole. This is good. This is good. This is what we want. We want people to give their series as a whole. I was very excited to start this manga because I'd heard the author is a genius for creating innovative story with realistic characters. She's probably talking about Fire Punch. Turned out my brain is so small, I couldn't find the genius of this manga. Neither did I find realistic characters. She read the wrong manga. This manga, as imaginative as it is, lacks creativity. By that, I mean many ideas are introduced but left unrefined, unable to stick together in order to make a structure and plot. While some fighting settings and devils are so interesting and new, the narrative and themes are uncreative and lacking. I had issues with both the writing and the art. Okay. G's going in hard. Okay. How long is this? Fucking hell. Okay. There's a lot going on here. Let's delve deeper into this. Dialogue. My biggest problem with this manga, the dialogue were just poorly written, very artificial and straight to the point, sometimes just retelling what I already knew. This way of telling instead of showing stopped me from getting close to the world or characters. Almost felt like sitting in a classroom where everything is being said and repeated in a stiff way without letting you observe and learn for yourself. I would disagree with that. I think there are a lot of visual elements shown in Chainsaw Man most of the time. I think there is a lot of exposition in Chainsaw Man, and I think that's also just a manga thing. Most manga use exposition so much, but if you look at even the later volumes, she's talking about the entire series, so we're not just talking about volume 1. There are the scenes with Aki later on in his visual storytelling, his visual metaphors of him as a child, seeing Denji in the snow, the snowball fight. These are all metaphors and visual representations. So I would say that that's very untrue. The gun devil and showing how it can litter through churches, all that sort of stuff. I'd say there's countless of visual metaphors. Going to hell, the hand picking up the department store. There's many. There's so many. There's a lot of show don't tell, but there is a lot of tell for sure. Observe and learn for yourself. I could hear the author's voice in my head saying, "Dear reader, you're supposed to feel sad. Dear reader, you're supposed to feel shocked." This stole the opportunity from the art to speak for itself and ended up being a boring read. At times, it tries to be somehow dark or deep, but rather than taking you to the world and help you feel the ugliness of it, we are spoon-fed with forced, dark, mechanical sentences. Juvenile humor could have worked, but I'm a little too old for that. Okay, that's fair. At least they know it's not for me. Almost every character was so tropey. You could describe their whole personality with 2 or 3 traits. This left them painfully predictable. I couldn't care for any of them. And as someone super emotional, it's surprising how I didn't cry or laugh while reading this. Denji as the main character was shallow, following the trends in front of him, and no amount of I just want to touch boobs or I just want to live a normal life made him realistic, relatable, or interesting for me. That's interesting. So I think it's relatable to have a normal life. He's someone who feels like his situation sucks, and I think that's relatable in a lot of ways. You have characters or people in general, I guess people, real life people, not characters, who were and do want to have a life outside of what they have. They probably feel like they can't live a normal life. I think it's pretty prominent. There are a lot of people in the world who don't have a normal life, who probably feel like they live in the worst circumstances emotionally or physically, right? I want to just touch some boobs. You know, that's just a slight character trait, I think, of showing that his goals are short-term and never long-term. And I think he never knows why he really wants them. That's not very realistic, that I want to touch boobs to a degree in terms of like it being a goal in the long term. But I just want to live a normal life. I think that's very relatable. And I think in terms of the characters, they can be tropey because I think they're trying to yeah, like you're saying, Only Summoner, is that the characters are meant to be deconstructive versions of shonen characters, right? Female characters was just bad. I mean, well, I can understand why Power and Makima was sexualized. It was part of the story and the theme, so I could pass them. But sexualizing every other female character just shows how uncreative the author is in giving actual personalities to females and impatient in respecting his female audience. It's just way cliche and boring to sexualize women in stories, which also ruin the significance of Makima's character. I think the significance of Makima's character is to control people, and a lot of ways in which people control people is through sex and seduction, and I think that was the whole point of Makima. Power is sexualized not that much. I think in the beginning she is, obviously, because it's his main goal is to touch boobs, but after that she's not as sexualized. Western take. No, I think it's a fair take. But I think there's things that, look, I think the thing that Fujimoto does in terms of how he sexualizes these characters is that the way in which he takes these characters, because the idea in other Japanese shonen is that women are sexualized, right? Naruto does, you know, the pervy jutsu, right? And that has a lot of value in terms of when you are reconstructing it, or when you are going against that trope by showing that it's a trope, showing that it doesn't matter. Denji, of course, he's someone who just wants to have that kind of, you know, sexual chemistry with someone. So of course he sees every girl as a potential mate, but he never does anything with them because, you know, he realizes he wants Makima to be the one because he knows that's the connection he wants. But yeah, you know, there is the frame where he thinks of every girl he knows and thinks, oh, do I want to date them? No. And then he's trying to decide between Riz and Makima. I don't think it is a cliche and boring to sexualize women's stories. That's true. But I think it's used to a point in this because it's just Denji who does this. Aki doesn't do this, even though he has a love for Makima, stuff like that. All right, view spoiler. It was obvious that she's the antagonist from the beginning. I think that is true. I think it was intentional, also true. So I was hoping for at least a good motivation or backstory. Sadly, it's also ended up being very cliche. Makima became my least interesting antagonist I've seen, with a shallow personality and weird smile, but I guess was supposed to be attractive and seductive. Yeah, I get the attractive and seductive part. I think I agree. I would have liked to have known more about Makima's past. I think that's a fair take. I agree with that one. One good thing though was Denji and Power dynamic. I enjoyed that dynamic also to the end. The bath scene happened. I absolutely adored how Denji realized that this is not naughty. However, a moment later, my adoration vanished with Power saying, "What is naughty?" It's just my personal feeling, but Power being passive in this relationship and dynamic killed the moment for me and my last hopes of liking this manga. Okay, I guess it's a taste thing. Pace. I don't know how much longer I have to read this. Up to 30, second things happen. So, okay, in the second half, things still happen so fast. I think that's the point. Fujimoto introduces you to all these new characters and they all get killed off. That's the point, to show you, holy fucking shit, this is a very ruthless world in which they live in with demons. Every possible plot twist without proper build-up. I think some build-up is there, you just don't see it. There is a difference between reading the chapters too fast and the chapters being too fast, you know? Aki and Angel are a couple? Not really. The Angel's also a boy. While I appreciate very imaginative devil designs, I think the character designs were terrible. Every character has the same soulless eyes and face expressions are done poorly. I found the side characters to be quite forgettable. That's true. I think a lot of the side characters can be forgettable. Kobeni is someone who I would have forgotten if it wasn't for some of her character traits, you know what I mean? I also found the action lacking. In many parts, there is actually no action. It's just an action pose in one panel and gut splitting everywhere in the next panel. The choreography is missing. Paneling framing did not have problems, but weren't special either. I couldn't find many innovative angles and frames. Okay, maybe a hot take from me. I do agree with this. It does feel, there are action poses. Like, I'll literally show you an example because I got the manga right here. Where is it? Like that, right? That's an action pose. But before it, there is no there is choreography, obviously. But where's the point where he slashes, dodge? And I think maybe that's something that is missing. Because when I look at the anime trailer, I feel like they're filling in the blanks of the action I wish was there. Because most of the time, yeah, I look at the action of Chainsaw Man and think it's fucking sick and awesome. But the problem of some of the action is that it doesn't feel like I'm seeing the fluid action of slice. That's my opinion though, so I kind of agree with that. I don't think that's the worst take in this review. How dare you, Kobeni is best girl. Look, look, I'm just saying I would have forgotten about her if she wasn't given certain personality traits. I think she's great. She's memorable. I can't forget her. Okay, calm down. But yeah, I feel like this part, soulless eyes, I think that's kind of a point. Some of the characters don't have soulless eyes. That shows that they're devils. Side characters quite forgettable. That's true. Action pose, yeah. Panel and framing, I think the manga has some of the best paneling and framing. Like the paneling and framing, I think is great. It's not innovative, but it's used in a way that stands out. There are so many great panels and frames. I've said this in my video when talking about the second half of Chainsaw Man. There are so many great panels that feel like they could be album covers. The hand grabbing the department store, the darkness devil with the spacemen, everything in hell. Like the way these images are framed looks so cool, you know? All these things made me feel like the author himself didn't like this story and was not enjoying it and respecting his own work. I think that's untrue. So I was surprised there's going to be a part 2. All that said, I still get why Chainsaw Man is hyped and I respect it, but I wished more deserving series were discussed more and could get the same hype too. Okay, I think it's just a taste thing. I don't agree with some of these takes, but honestly, this is probably the best review so far because they've read everything. They feel like it's not for them. They feel like there's a lot here that doesn't add a value to her or them. So that's fine. Totally, I respect it. You know, 1-star review, but I respect it, you know? Oh, here we go, another series. Fuck, guys, how much do you have to write? Just make a video, just make a YouTube channel. You do not have to write this much. Lao So, I was truly bored while reading this. I want to try reading some of the other volumes to see if I'll be into it, because I do want to try a new series now that almost all the ones I read have finished. I don't understand how this is a 1-star, but I hope you keep reading Lao So. That's kind of cool. Finally, a manga for people who own more than one Slipknot t-shirt. It's edgelord nonsense, but it's compelling enough to make me want to read the next one, even if it sucks. Hey, he's got him. All right, boys, can we get a 1 in chat if you own a Slipknot t-shirt? I love that. Yeah, one. Oh, that's funny. I have 2 Slipknot t-shirts. What does that make me? I think it makes you the target audience for Chainsaw Man, new dude. Here we go. Here's a good one, short. A lot of people have called this series an actual masterpiece, but man, is it anything but that? Dude, Will. Most people seem to like it purely because it's different from your typical shonen manga. This is true. But just because something is different doesn't mean it's actually very good. Very few things in the story made sense. They just kind of happened with little to no explanation. None of the characters were interesting because most of them die before you really get to know them. The world building is virtually non-existent. I could go on, but I'll stop there. In short, don't waste your time with this series. I don't know, guys, what do you think? Do you think Will's based or not? A paragraph isn't short. It's shorter than the fucking testament that these guys are writing. What do you mean, Hector? Look at that. Most people like it because it's different from your typical shonen manga. This is true. I do think so. And I think that's kind of the point of why people find it refreshing. Is because if you have Chainsaw Man come out at a time where shonen is king, in a way where it's all everyone loves, they don't care about being different, it probably wouldn't have done well. But it's because it came out at the time it did do well. You know what I mean? The world building was kind of meh. I do agree with the world building. I think I've talked about that in a video. I think the world building in Chainsaw Man does feel less fully fleshed out, mostly with the rules of the devils. I've learned a bit more now because I've read a bit up, and I feel like that is stuff that needs to be in exposition. But in terms of being a typical shonen manga, it's great because it subverts that, and I think that's what people like. Just because it's different doesn't mean it's actually good. I think that is true, but I do think Chainsaw Man does promise on it. Because it looks so shonen-esque, but it's not. And I think that's what's really cool about it. Now, the characters are interesting because most of them die before you get to know them. I do think character development's lacking just a touch. That's true. I'd say that's true. Denji the most, but that's because he's the main character. His has to be a prolonged character development. But I would say he goes through small changes that make them feel like they're huge ones. All right, let's move on. Listen, I'm giving this manga a 1.5-star rating, and the only reason why is the art. It has really gross and gory art that really fits with the bloody themes of the story. It also has pretty detailed monsters that are gross as hell. I would love to see more art from this author. In the synopsis, it sounds like a really great story, but that just wasn't enough actual substances for me. I don't know if it's the fault of the author or the translator, but the dialogue was choppy and very basic, and all the jokes just kind of fell flat for me. But simply based on story as well, it falls short. What I saw of the characters was very one-dimensional, and the plot jumped around so much that I didn't connect to anything in the story. All the interactions between characters felt so fake and surface level to the point where I couldn't care less. And it actually ended up annoying me. There wasn't anything here, an interesting idea, but other than the shock value chainsaw aspects, This is just a low-grade Jujutsu Kaisen. There it is. Like, they have basically the same plot and characters, but Jujutsu Kaisen is so engaging and multi-dimensional from the very start, whereas this was just bad. I can't even think of anything to talk about in regards, so it was because just nothingness. I would say if you like the premise or intrigued by any part of this story, apart from just the chainsaw and really poorly written boob jokes, hey, this is true. Not offensive, not stupid, just effectually bad. I like that. You know, that's a good take. Not offensive, not offensive, not stupid, just bad jokes. Not funny. They didn't hit. They should have had better boob jokes. Which actually, that's a fair criticism. I actually like that. Just pick up Jujutsu Kaisen instead, save your time and energy. Well, I've got volume 1 over there, so, you know, I'll get around it. Jujutsu Kaisen and Chainsaw Man are so different. I really don't get why people compare them other than being a shonen where 3 main characters kill monsters. I think it's also the devil occult kind of thing. The devil and occult kind of thing. Because if you think about it, I haven't read Jujutsu Kaisen, but I do know that from what I've heard of people who have watched it and what I see online in terms of the promotion, it does feel much more fleshed out in its world building of characters and demons and the way it all works cohesively together. So I feel like Chainsaw Man probably doesn't have that aspect that Jujutsu Kaisen does, right? The Devil's Hunting the organization is similar, you know. Things can be similar, but they can also be different at the exact same time. I feel like this is probably the most respectful review. So can we get a W for Anna in the chat? Here we go. Roger. Roger did not like it. Just thinking about this, the past few days has left me nothing. The art is extremely inconsistent and the story is just so juvenile you think this was written by someone who just hit puberty. This was hovering at a 2-star, but a 1-star is way more deserving for just how forgettable it is. The fact that you were thinking about the past few days makes me feel like it wasn't forgettable. Thoughts? Question mark? Oh god. All right, chat, I'm gonna front with you. I actually have to take a massive dump while we wait for me to come back. You know, maybe subscribe and like the stream. I'd really appreciate it. Go check out a new Cyberpunk video I made. Get it same views as Giga. That'd be kind of cool, chat. Poo snap? Dude, I didn't have time to take a photo. It also wasn't that good. Bro, that was fast. I told you I'm quick. Placeholder for 1 to 6 of Chainsaw Man. I really didn't like this one. I feel like most of this style over substance was tons of shock value. I felt like I was getting attached to any of the characters and it was just a murder sim. This feels like a lesser stellar version of Jujutsu Kaisen. Oh man, bro. Fujimoto's getting cut up. Damn, that's fucked. Style over substance is true. Yeah, depends on what point. I do feel like when it wants to, the style evokes the substance. But sometimes, yeah, it can be style over substance for the way some characters look, the way they sometimes interact with each other. Maybe. Yeah, I'd say that's kind of a fair take. Not for me, and I don't understand why it's so popular. The art is bad, messy most of the time, super gore, bad characters, and worst, a bit on the Aero side. People don't like popular things? That's fair. I kind of want to read Jujutsu Kaisen now. A bit on the Aero side? I mean, that's okay. That's okay. If it's not for you, yeah, for sure. I do like, again, I think this is good. I do like reviews like this. Not for me. I don't understand, like, you know, not for me. It's fine to not understand why it's so popular. There are some that I'll never understand why things are so popular. You know what I mean? You like the erotic side of manga? Absolutely, I do. Absolutely. I didn't read Chainsaw Man for the Aero, but I stayed for it. Okay, G, you just reposted the exact same review on this one. Why? Action was cool, characters and plot overall sucked ass. Won't be continuing when part 2 or whatever picks up. Yeah, won't be continuing when part 2 comes out this month, you know, on this day, because I don't care. I suddenly don't know how to read. It's so dreadful. Rating for the whole series, 2 out of 5 stars. Okay, the ending of part 1, I do think can get kind of fucking crazy. Again, with the exposition and stuff like that. Part 2 is great. I agree, Zach. I think part 2 feels like a really good reset for the story and what it's trying to achieve. I think part 2 is awesome. Actually, I did have Mal open. I'll read one from Mal, because usually the one from Mal is always very long. Chainsaw Man, it always had style, but it took freaking ages for its plot to come together. Nothing's safe to assume about this manga. But one thing is safe to say for sure. Explosive events and hype doesn't equal good writing. That's what he's trying to say. He could have just said that. I can't blame people who come for action. It's all a fast read, but coming for an actual story, sorry, you're fooling yourself. The action and setting are alright, the story and characters are forgettable and nothing more than a modern fan service for teens to relate to, like I want to touch some boobs. Will power finally freaking do something? Denji fights are getting ... It's the same thing over again. Hands down, best character development is Powers. If you only consider becoming more and more useless a development, then sure, that's the only development we saw and was displayed. I do wish there were more power action scenes. I will say that's true. I mean, it's coming from a dude with an Ichigo profile picture. What else would you expect? I was gonna say, isn't that like a Bleach profile picture? Does this criticism carry over to a guy who likes Bleach? Now, I don't have anything against Bleach. I've never read it. I'll probably read it eventually. Maybe I'll love it. Maybe it will become my favorite thing ever. I do think Power could add more fight scenes though. I do think it's kind of ironic based on Bleach being a shonen that he's criticizing the shonen, the shonen-esque stereotype. Which is kind of funny. Every story has forgettable thing, but if you finish it and there are things that remember after finishing it, then it's not forgettable. That's true. All right, let's read, is this big one? Oh, come on, guys. Dude! Okay, we criticized Goodreads people for typing too much. This is anime fans typing too much. Manga and, we'll see, Weebs are posting way too much, dude. Look at this. Come on. Are you serious? This is too much. You have more time writing this. You could probably have written your own manga. That probably would have been a better review because you could have said, bro, I'm gonna write my own manga because I don't like Chainsaw Man that much. Stop. Stop this. Stop this. I'd rather read 5 lines review on Reddit than all this. I'm not gonna read this. Who's gonna read this? All right, here's better. Story. Begins in the most generic and stupid moment when Devil decides to, for the sake of spoilers, let's say, help MC because he wants to see more of MC dreams, aka wants to see MC achieve his goal / dreams. What does MC do after that? He decides to make his goal to touch a female. Seriously? All right, Mally, you've got a Captain Harlock profile picture. Have you touched a female? Question mark. Character art is meh. Devil art is good. Battle scenes are also drawn pretty good. This is like an ADHD review. I kind of like it, actually. Terrible and unlikable characters fill this manga. Let's start from main character, who is a simp for any type of physical contact with female and would do anything for it. Ah, so this guy's an alpha male. He's not a simp. Ah, see? See? If you don't like Chainsaw Man, you're not a simp. You're an alpha male. Not only for that, he is overly edgy and lacks any positive / likable traits. Like most anime fans and weebs, we all have non-likable traits. So it's kind of like looking in a mirror. Next, we have Power, who is as edgy as they come. Her personality can be summarized with, what? You want to kill me? No, I'll kill you, idiot. Blah, 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 blah. That's fun. Hey, you don't like that? That's funny. The only enjoyment you can get from this are the battles, which are pleasant to look at and are pretty interesting. Overall, pretty overrated manga with a bunch of over-the-top edgy characters, poor excuse for a plot, and dope fights. Out of 2, not bad. Can I get a blood, power in the chat? Tate fanboy review? Maybe. Let's stalk him. Damn, he's watched over 251 anime. He's read over 277 manga. Fuck. All right, I gotta admit, his favorite's Gurren Lagann. That's kind of funny. My favorite anime is Gurren Lagann, but if you think that Chainsaw Man's over the top, bro, you Gurren Lagann is like so over the top. So over the top. All right, he read Arigato. What is Arigato? A depressing story about how Japanese family life goes wrong. An immortal protagonist, her sister who was gang raped before, her alcoholic mother who later devoted her life to a cult, and her father who lost favor with his company full of sexual content and highly violent. Holy fuck, what are you reading? All right, how do I add this to my any list? What is Arigato? Jesus Christ. Oh, Yosumi-pun. Okay, so based on manga, okay, this is very interesting. Let's analyze this man's taste, right? So, okay, this is very interesting. So, in terms of his anime, he likes a lot of the action stuff. Like, look, Captain Harlock, Gurren Lagann, Devilman. Devilman's pretty similar to Chainsaw Man in terms of its ultra violence. You know, I would argue that Akira is less of a developed character than Denji, mostly because Akira wants to help people for the sake of helping people. Like, he's a good person, but he doesn't feel like a realistic character in the world of Devilman. His manga tastes seem to be very, very introverted, like very, what's the word? I'm gonna use the word pretentious. I'm gonna use the word pretentious just because I can't think of anything else. For example, Pun Pun, Devilman, the classics, Homunculus. These are like innocent. These are like I'm going to sit in my library of books, light a fire, you know, sit by it in my large reading chair. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to read some literature, aka Devilman Volume 1. Okay, here we go. This one mentions my fellow Australian, Joey the Anime Man. I've heard of this manga series a good few times by Joey the Anime Man. Go subscribe, he's great. And also, people who like No Guns Life, haven't seen it. At first, it was a pretty good start because we got to explore how our main character Denji got around to being a chainsaw dude in the first place. Actually pronounced chainsaw man. I really liked his attitude of being laid back and always saying funny remarks with some of the characters. I did considerably get a few chuckles out of the comedy sides of things involved in this manga. I mean, this manga isn't that terrible, but I think the boob jokes were rather childish and pretty much boring. As well, I felt the other characters weren't really taken seriously with character development. One minute they were there and next they are gone. It's pretty much worse as the Game of Thrones last episode with killing potential characters who needed more screen time. That's a fair take. But I'd say this didn't have a point. This does have a point. They are there and gone the next. That's kind of the point. The fighting scenes were rather hit/miss, like I was pretty underwhelmed by them. Normally if I'm reading fight scenes on any manga I read, I always cheer on the people who are involved in the fight. Like he physically sits there reading the manga. He's like, hang on, let me do a reenaction. Yo, dude, let's go. Let's go, dude. Like that? Is that how it goes? Is this the first review to say like some of the comedy? No. I think he liked some of the comedy, but he didn't like the boob jokes. He's like, yes, the boob jokes for me were quite childish, actually. As I sit here and watch my Japanese cartoon, and I feel like it's just abysmal. It's just abysmal is what it is. I always cheer on people involved in the fight. Unfortunately, not with the main character here, which is a pity. Ah, well, at least I gave it a long shot for 46 chapters and realized it ain't for me, Chief. All right, I respect the last line. All right, this is also, you can tell he watches trash taste. It ain't for me, Chief. He's been watching a lot of Joey the Anime Man. Booba equal funny. True. Is this a big one? Guys, stop. Stop writing. Stop. When you can't read reviews because they're too long. Okay, much better. After a series of 10s, I decided the public deserves a review by someone who's over the age of 14. Okay, all right, we got a comedian. The beautiful thing about this manga is that the 95% of it can be explained in the following paragraph. Me, main character, me like boobs. Me use chainsaw to kill demons, vroom vroom. Me have other friends who help me kill demons. That's it. The ending throws an unexpected twist that really added nothing to the story, which is a shame considering the gun demon and hell arc are 1,000 times better than that ending. I understand the take on the ending, you know. Oh my god, Bleach? Is it a Bleach profile picture again? Bleach fans don't really like it because it involves devils, right? Because Bleach is about devils? Is that right? Is this why they're like, you know what I mean? Is that why? Are they scared that Chainsaw Man's gonna come in and overshadow the new Bleach arc that's kind of coming in? Chainsaw Man was just a better Bleach. And then Chainsaw Man is just a worse Jujutsu Kaisen, and Jujutsu Kaisen is the worst Bleach, but Bleach is the worst Chainsaw Man. Interesting. He didn't read the manga at all. You don't think so? Let's see. I'd say it was really good. Couple of panels really messy. It was hard to tell what was what, but other than that, important moments are done well. I agree with that. I'm fine with that one. Character 1 out of 10. Easily the worst part of it. As I said, main guy likes tits and sweets. That's the end of his depth. Supporting cast was done weak, and Shallow Makima is a poor man's Aizen. Aizen's a Bleach character, isn't it? Yes, he is the main villain in Bleach. Yep. Oh, dude. This manga is essentially the same as Kimetsu no Yaiba, which is Demon Slayer. Are you 14? Is this your first manga, and do you think tits, blood, and characters screaming, transforming is the coolest thing ever? You'll like it? No? Then you won't. Interesting. Does this mean that, like, people who read Bleach are, like, all 30? 40? Sorry, my bad, 40. Trying to think of what... I agree with the art one. Couple panels really messy. Hard to tell sometimes, but on that... Essentially the same as Kimetsu no Yaiba. I don't think that's a pretty good comparison. I've read the first volume of Demon Slayer and can confirm that the very different volume 1 experience. I don't remember the part where Tanjiro wants to, you know, touch his own sister's booba. I may have missed that. Well, I think I'll leave it at that one. That was pretty good. There you go, chap. That was the 1-star reviews of Chainsaw Man. Maybe we should go do Mal ones more, because then we see a lot of these takes. These people of our own industry. there you have it. Those are the 1-star reviews, essentially, of Chainsaw Man. Do we agree with some? Somewhat. Others? Not really.